Hello, my name is Hector Velazquez and welcome to GCS AA Inside the Shop. Now, our mower has been running a little sluggish, very poor performance, and it's getting a little bit harder to start. Now, with a little bit of troubleshooting, we came to the conclusion that our intake and exhaust valves might need a little bit of an adjustment. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how important these valves are to the efficiency and operation of this engine. Let's get started. A valve train is a mechanical system that controls the operation of both intake and exhaust valves in the engine. The intake valve controls the flow of air-fuel mixture into the combustion chamber, while the exhaust valves control the flow of exhaust gases out of the combustion area. Now, the rocker arms is what opens and closes the valves. The spring tension on the valves keeps them closed. Alright, so next we're going to remove the valve cover. Now be sure to follow your engine's manufacturer specifications for valve clearances and for the proper procedure. Now we want to make sure to inspect really good the valve cover gasket. We want to make sure there's no damage to it. If so, please replace it. Alright, now we're going to remove the spark plug, and what we want to do, we want to put the piston at TDC or top dead center. So with the pencil or a wooden dowel rod, you'll be able to tell where that piston is at. Once we get it to TDC, you're going to need to check your valves or your rocker arms. If they're both tight, you might be in the valve overlap position. You're going to have to turn the engine 180 degrees and get it on the TDC under the compression stroke. Now we have both our valves that are a little bit loose. Now we're ready. Tools that you're going to need is a feeler gauge. These feeler gauges have a certain measured thickness about them. Be sure to use the proper ones on both intakes and exhaust. And then I have this pass-through ratchet with the pass-through socket here. And this makes it really nice because in this case I'm able to take my Torx for my adjustment nut, make that position. Once I get it, I can lock it down with the ratchet. Makes it a little bit easier. Now with the feeler gauge, the way to use this, you want to get it in between the rocker arm and the valve stem and measure for clearance that way. Now make sure that your feeler gauge is going in nice and straight. Now with our mower, we found out that our intake valve was a little tight. We took the measured feeler gauge that we needed and we couldn't even squeeze it in between. So we knew that it was too tight. So now we knew what was happening was the intake valve was being held open. We were then losing compression and power. So we're going to take and loosen our locking nut on the adjustment nut. Here we are, nice and loose. Now I'm going to take the appropriate feeler gauge for this engine and slide it in between the valve stem and the rocker arm. And then I'm going to start tightening on the adjustment nut. And it doesn't take much, you guys. Just little movements goes a long way. As you can see, I'm a little bit too tight here. My feeler gauge is flexing, so I'm going to loosen up just a little bit. And here I have really good drag. So now I'm going to grab my ratchet. I'm going to hold my adjustment nut while I tighten down my lock nut. Now you're going to want to repeat this procedure for the other valve. And once you're done, make sure to double check all your measurements. And they feel pretty good. Alright, now we're ready to put our valve cover back on and try this baby out. I want to thank you for joining me here today on GCS AA Inside the Shop, where we're helping technicians one wrench at a time.